Welcome to You Love You LLC podcast, where we talk about everything self love and recovery. Today, I've invited a very special guest, Laurel L from Boston, and I'd like to introduce you and have you come in and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you for allowing me that opportunity. My name is Laurel. I live outside of Boston. Oh gosh, I'm about to be something approaching a big 50 number in a few weeks, and I have been on this journey of recovery. Um, I would say for more years than I have, because there's been a few journeys in my life, but I have been sober today, and I'm so happy to be here today for 444 days. I don't even know why that is a fun number. It's just a fun number. And I say it's 444 24s. That's all it is to me. It is just 444 24-hour periods. I have 4 children. I am a teacher, a special education teacher. I'm also a school social worker. I work with kids with autism. I have a kid with autism. And I am someone who, for my story as an introduction, I was left in a basket in front of Mother Teresa's orphanage in Kanpur, India, when I was a baby. And they don't even know how old I was. And I got to be here because I got adopted. And I got to come here when they think I was about 6 months old. We're not even sure when my birthday is. So talk about starting with humble beginnings, right? And I came here and I grew up in a very normal middle class household outside of Boston. Went to college here, met my fiance, then husband here, went to college at Simmons, got my master's at Lesley, and had a kid with autism. Had a marriage that just didn't end up working out the way it could have been. Maybe should have been, in my opinion, but it is what it is. And I have always been somebody who was involved in my church, the church, of my understanding, very liberal Presbyterian church. And I was just doing the things I thought I needed to do and just trying really hard. And during the pandemic, what happened is was a hard time. And I chose very poor ways to cope with it. And that involved drinking. It involved drinking every day. It involved going to a liquor store every morning and
Wow.
saving those wine boxes until the evening and then drinking them. And I couldn't stop doing it. There was nothing in my life, a higher power, my God, my kids, that I did, that I just kept doing it. And what happened is I was on my school committee. I serve in a lot of positions in my town of just doing just things to help other people. That's all I've ever tried to do. But what I was not doing is I was not helping myself. I was not helping my children. I was not helping the people who cared about me and counted on me. And I came to AA on my knees. I came on a July morning. My kids were gone for 2 weeks, and I was on my knees saying, I can't do this anymore. And I had worked with my doctor and anyways had detoxed at home. And I came on to a meeting at 6 a.m. and I just never left. That for the next days, gosh, it was days. I did not get off because detox is not fun. And I realized that there is a power that is greater than me. And I had to accept that because I didn't even know what was up, what was down. You couldn't have told me if the sky was gray, I would have told you it was bright pink at that time. But I was also ready to listen. And at that first meeting I was ever at, somebody had said, I don't know, so there was something about if you want to sponsor, like put something up or put your number in the chat. So I did. And I found a sponsor that first day I was here in this one particular group. And I'm still blessed to be friends with and know people who were in that group. And I will be forever grateful to each and every person who was there, because the opposite of addiction that I have learned in this program is connection. And I did not have connections before. I was ashamed to talk to anyone. So where I am now, I have my 444 days, but I am a happy person. I have gone, there are challenges. My father passed, my mother's on hospice. I've dealt with tough stuff. I have not had to pick up a drink. I have not, I get to make good choices. I get to have a sponsor who knows they're my sponsor. And I also get to have sponsors, right?
Yes.
I get to have sponsors. I get to read a page of the big book, at least, probably more than that every day. And honestly, that's because, let's be rigorously honest, part of that is because I have sponsors and I get to do that work with them. But it's not really work, it's just kind of good life. It's good living to me. I get to do my 10 step every night. And do I do it perfectly? Probably not. Don't think I do much perfectly. Do I get to get out of bed every morning? I do. And what I do is I say the third step prayer before I literally get my feet out of my bed. And I just believe that my higher power, and I call them God, is because I have surrendered and said, I can't do this anymore by myself. They can, I can't. Let them. So where I am is, so I am now, I teach students who have disabilities. I also teach teachers at Boston University. I have 2 online courses which I teach. And one is sometimes in person, it's hybrid. I get to volunteer. I get to help my community, but most importantly, going back a second, I get to be a better mom to my kids. I get to be a better friend to the people in my life. I get to be part of a home group, which is in person, which this, so I go to both types of groups. I'm going to McLean Hospital tonight, because I get to do a commitment there every Wednesday night. And I get to go talk to people on the detox units, every single Wednesday because somebody asked me to. And in this program, I get to give back what I was freely given by other people when I was a nurse.
Yes.
And I get to go talk to people that are in detox. And they just need a little bit of hope. And I always say that if 1% of what I say helps one person, it was worth it. And my kids they're my kids. I have just beautiful kids. And I have a beautiful life that is not perfect, but I do have a life which I can wake up every day and be on their prayer and say, I don't have to drink. I don't want to drink. And if I did want to take a drink, I have people I get to call. I know this is a we program, and I believe that in my heart and in my soul. So that's kind of where I am. So I'm Laurel, and I am an alcoholic.
Well, there you have it, fellas. Folks, we can close the podcast out right there. She just put it all on us. Thank you so much for sharing some of your time and your journey through this process of recovery. You mentioned the early morning meeting, which we first met at, and I too had the same experience. Someone really nurtured me through the first few weeks after getting out of detox, and halfway after detox and PHP, and halfway or three quarter house, and finally getting my own apartment. We come to know each other, and I admire and I just love your story. That's just amazing, and the things that you're doing with the kids and giving back to the community is above and beyond what I could ever think of doing. But I'm working on it one day at a time for sure, and I will appreciate you. So, as we talked prior and previously a few times, trying to make this day happen, congratulations on 444 days. That is awesome. It's just amazing how the obsession to drink, drug, cause harm, do harm to ourselves, and be there for others is just amazing. So, I appreciate you coming in and talking with us. As you know, I've developed a couple of questions, and we can just take them from wherever. If we go off one way or the other, it's no problem, no formal format. These questions are just ways to get us to talk about self love, everything self love and recovery. It seems like you have quite a bit of self love, so I appreciate you. The first one that we can talk about is what has been the most important aspect of your self love journey in maintaining sobriety.
The most important part of my self-love journey has been accepting that there is a power far greater than myself, and that when I accept that, I can give back and I can love myself. I didn't love myself. I thought that I was weak. I thought that I couldn't handle anything that was beyond the scope of my drinking career was short, but it was pretty intense. And, I thought that I had no ability to take an action. So my self-love journey, what has happened to me is what happened is I learned to kind of like myself. And then guess what? I learned to love myself. And that is something I always heard was, that's not the biggest, it's not the biggest resentment you have. You can't be to yourself. Well, it wasn't, but it was a resentment to myself. So what I learned to do is to say, okay, Laurel, let's do your 10 step. Let's write down what's going on. These are the things that you're worried about. Also, these are the things I do a gratitude list every night. These are the things which you're grateful for. And it's not out of wanting attention. It's out of saying, this is how maybe I could help someone else. And so I had to learn to love myself and give myself that hug. Because when I was drinking, my kids would not even hug me. And I don't
Yeah,
blame them.
absolutely.
And when I was drinking, I never thought that I could ever get past it. And when I reached not these 444, when I reached the day where I surrendered and said, I'm joining AA and I need to do this with other people, that's when I started to learn to love myself. Because I was told at the first meeting I ever went to, we're going to love you until you love yourself.
That part, yes. And it's come true. And I know you're loving people as they come in. I've noticed you said the 10th step several times, and we'll get into discussing the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, which most of the recovery program that I come through is based on the Alcoholics Anonymous, the big book, the first 164 pages, the steps 1 through 12, and
And
working
I
with the
have
sponsor.
to my very, very, my very messed up version, Wendell.
That's
Yes,
awesome. I
it's
have several
I'm
of
sure
them
you go
around here.
yours too. Don't worry.
I I don't see my little one. I have a big one over there. I usually take the
Oh,
little one
use
with
a
me.
bit. Yeah, use the little red one. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's awesome. How has your recovery journey influenced your understanding and practice of self love?
My recovery journey has, gosh, influenced my practice and understanding of self-love. That self-love translates to love for other people. Gosh, to me, I always did things. I took actions to help other people, but I never, I did it for the wrong reasons. I did it because I thought it would make me feel better. I don't do that anymore. My journey of self-love has been translated to love for my fellows and love for other people. So guess what? When I do something nice for someone else, I don't want any credit. I don't want anything. I just want to know that maybe somebody's day is a little bit better. And that is humility as I understand it. And you know, I'm not the God of my understanding, but it's been able to influence me in the way that I chaired walks, I chaired fundraisers, just all these things I did, big things in my life. I could say funny things here, but I won't. But what it did is it allowed me to not focus on just, even if it wasn't always just about me, I could just focus on other people and helping them. And loving oneself, loving myself has allowed me to love people without boundaries. I don't judge people. I used to judge people. I came into the program of Alcoholics Anonymous thinking, gosh, I didn't know what I thought. I thought drunks were drunks and this was on TV and in the movies and this and that. I never had met anyone. And, you know, gosh, I got to sit down really quickly, didn't I? And say, we're all just humans. We are all people who may or may not have, so I could quote the book here, but I won't.
Please do. I'm a book quoter myself. It didn't keep me sober, but either way.
We just wouldn't all be together, but we are because we have this disease. And it's a disease like if you are allergic to seafood, you go out and you eat seafood, like what do you expect is going to happen? You're going to get really sick, right? If I have an allergy to bees and I get stung by a bee and I put myself, okay, this is a bad one, in a beekeeper's like place, I'm going to get stung, right?
Yes.
And so, but for me, if I know the seafood one's better, because if I chose to eat something which would make me sick when I already have a sickness, this is an illness. I never thought I would have it. I never thought I would have it. But guess what? I got medicine for it. And it's not pharmaceutical medicine, although I have nothing against anybody who does. My medicine is a program which is a design for living. And that is going to meetings, reading the book, helping someone else. And I'm not going to quote you because you're not that, and helping someone else. And that's out of it. But, that's what I do because it keeps me right-sized because
Absolutely.
my ego, gosh, it'd be this big.
Yes.
Probably this big. And if it's like bigger than that, I have people in this program, but also who are now friends who will say, Laurel, you know what? Let's have a conversation and let's try to figure this out together. And
Absolutely.
having the responsibility of talking and not being a sponsor. It's not like I tell people what to do. Alcoholics do not like to be told what to do, in my opinion. However, I can give suggestions, but it keeps me right size because I have to remember the suggestions that were given to me. So I hope
You
that
know,
is.
funny you should say that. A lot of people do come into the rooms and say, "Oh, well, I'm just giving suggestions." And I was taught and learned. First off, you don't tell anybody what to do. And a suggestion is just like sometimes telling people what to do. So what I've learned to do in these rooms is share only my experience. What has happened to me? This is what I would do, or this is what happened to me when that particular thing happened. And I find it more so in Zoom meetings that people was, well, I would suggest that you do, and somebody even reminded me one time because my famous quote, get a sponsor, read a page of the book, go to a meeting, pray to a power greater than yourself that I found through working the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous
And I
and
could quote it, right, and
help.
I could have a Porta Johnny quote too, but
Well,
but
we're
I
not
know,
talking about the Porta John today, but
no, but I
no,
know, when we share our experience, strength, and hope and what worked for us,
yes,
whatever our experience is, I'm going to share, like you didn't ask me, but I'm going to now because I probably should have at the beginning. What brought me to this program is my daughters found me on the floor of my kitchen passed out, and they took a video of it
Wow.
with their cell phones. And they said, Mom, what the hell are you doing?
That would
And
do it.
God bless them. Bless them.
Yes.
Because I I wasn't somebody who was lying. I was somebody who could not accept what I was doing. I would have made an excuse. You cannot make an excuse when there's a video unless you're gonna like make an AI excuse, which I was not gonna do. But that is what brought me to my knees too. I was sick. And
Absolutely.
my kids noticed.
And I normally tell the story in the rooms or mention the porta john because a lot of people reference back to drinking. Oh, I just want to drink so bad. Or even after the physical allergy has left, as the doctor's opinion talks about in the book, we suffer from a threefold disease, a physical, spiritual, and mental. And once the physical is removed, or once the alcohol is removed,
But you know
not
what? I'm going to share something, and to anybody listening to this, if you keep it in the podcast or not, that story was probably one of the things that most influenced. It was not part of my story. It probably helped most influence my recovery. I was on day 1 or 2, well, the first day I heard that. And first of all, I thought, how gross. And then I thought, how much in a bad place what I need to be in, not my new friend Wendell. How bad of a place would I have to be in to do that? And you know what? The point isn't though that you did it. The point is what happens when one hits rock bottom, and I'm not sure that was yours, but what happens? It took me hearing that to say, I'm going to continue to wake up and say, I don't ever want to be there, and I don't think you wanted to be there either. But in the end, alcohol, well, I'm going to say this, it's a terrible A saying. You take a drink and then the drink takes you.
absolutely. That's not terrible. That's the truth.
It is the
Alcohol
truth.
becomes my rapacious creditor. It becomes my director. I
It
can
becomes my
drink.
my best friend, my lover, my everything.
That's right.
And that's what happened to me.
Yeah,
And and if it would end up, um, I would stay out at night and I would like literally scare the hell out of my kids because
mhm,
I wouldn't come home.
yeah,
Um, wasn't a porta john that I remember, but it certainly was not anywhere good. And I was not in any place to be able to um, make decisions that would be positive or good for my children. And, I was a teacher and it was during COVID, and I just think that for me, I my aha moment was that video on the floor in the kitchen. And
absolutely.
my kids wanted to celebrate that 1 year. I
Wow.
didn't want to celebrate it, but they did.
Well, there
So
are different depths of incomprehensible demoralization. And if you stick around in the rooms long enough, you will hear anything from being a child and the mom put alcohol in their bottle all the way up till 21st, which I heard at one of the Freedom Founders Day Founders Day speakers meetings, and just all different types of stories. So I applaud you and thank you so much for even recognizing and allowing me to know that that story might have touched someone. It's the facts and the same thing about Alcoholics Anonymous. We tell the truth about ourselves because there's one person my story will help, and I just don't know who that person is. So I need to go to a bunch of meetings to find. That's what they always tell me.
uh,
So I
some,
appreciate you. I'm glad your kids took that picture, and I'm glad you are in here. You are a pillar in the community, and it's just a beautiful thing to recover and see actually what we call the dead comes to come back to life. So I appreciate it. Is there any strategies or tools you found most effective in navigating life's challenges while staying sober?
Yeah, absolutely. So the tools that I have found that are successful are realizing, first of all, that I'm not alone. And that means we do this together. We, meaning the people in the program, meaning that not only do I get to reach out to another fellow, I don't like this language in the book, but whatever. I get to reach out to someone who is a woman or a man who may be another alcoholic. I also get to take calls from them. I also get to, on my phone at nighttime, there's a thing called focus. And who I block are all my clients because it's my same line for my work. Who I take calls from are other alcoholics and of other people who just might need somebody to listen to. Because once sometimes people just have a craving, it may disappear if you talk to them. I can't make anybody drink. Nobody can keep me sober. Like that's what I go back to. So what tool? It's the fellowship and it's the fact that what helps me is being part of a community. The other thing that has helped me a lot is realizing that net, just like the real world, AA is a microcosm of the world. And there are some groups that work really great. There's some groups that which may not work great for me. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with another group. It means that I get to, in sobriety, or even in, well, yes, in sobriety, I get to make choices of where I go. I get to choose an in-person group that does these commitments. I don't know what a commitment was. Nobody talks about a commitment on an online meeting, by the way, but I get to do that.
Absolutely.
And the other lesson that I've learned, I'm not about the 1,000 pound phone. I really don't think my phone weighs 1,000 pounds. What I think that's helped me the most in recovery is have 5 and 5. Have 5 numbers in text of people who you are close enough to that you think they might have your name and number in their phone. And then have 5 numbers of the drug and alcohol counseling number for my state, or some of the other hotlines that there are. For the I live in Boston, so the Central Service Organization here. Um, and that's what I need. And that's what I've utilized. And that was a great tool, certainly in early sobriety. And I'm not going to lie to anybody here. I use that when my dad did, and I needed to, and that's okay. And
Absolutely.
somebody picked up the phone at 2:30 in the morning and they talked to me for 4 hours.
Wow.
And we played out what would happen if I took a drink, because sometimes my mind gets a little squirrely. It does. And you know what? Taking a drink doesn't help anything. It will only hurt everything. Um,
Absolutely.
so those are the tools that I use. And the other tool that I use is I journal. It's not a great journal. It's not pretty. I know people who don't do it in like different color pens and whatnot. I take notes during meetings. I journal at night and then I do my 10 step, and you know what? It helps me to remember that the day can have and I write the joys. I also write the challenges, but it allows me to kind of take a look at it and say, you know what? This all happened. And I'm still sober tonight, thanks to a
Absolutely.
power which is greater than myself. So those are
Absolutely.
my
I've
choices.
actually heard you say several times, I get to. And a lot of people used to say as they came in, I'm sure you've met people or heard people come in and they've got arrested for a DWI or a DUI, that they have to take these classes and they have to do this and I have to go to work and all of these things. So it's real important that you using the word get to lets everyone knows that this is a privilege. Again, I was sharing not too long ago. I don't know why the creator, God, Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, whoever you serve, picked me to be here at this particular time to be able to share with individuals, my experience, strength, and hope. This is what happened to me. And sharing that hopefully will help, like you said, one person. If 1% of the things that I say helps one person, I've done my job for the day, the year, the month, or whatever it might take. So I appreciate you saying that. I've heard you say working the steps, sponsors, people picking up the phone, and you're calling phones, calling people, working the steps in order with a sponsor. I
In
was
order.
really
Yeah, in order.
in order. I was
We're in order
relieved.
for a reason.
That's right. You can't do 4 without doing 1, 2, and 3. Absolutely. So I appreciate it. So I'm pretty sure I have the answer to this, but how has your perspective on living life on life's terms evolved throughout your journey?
Oh gosh, my perspective is that oh, I get to wake up and I get to smile. Or even if I don't wake up smiling, I get to smile throughout my day. People get to see my teeth, which I'm not saying is anything great, but I get to find reasonable happiness. If I look at the long version of the Serenity Prayer, okay, reasonable happiness. That's
Yes.
what I happy, joyous, and free. If I've seen the promises, they've I've seen them come true. If
Absolutely.
I am walking a road towards happy destiny, still working on that one. But no, I get to be happy. I get to say, I'm going to go and volunteer to do something which is kind of fun. I got to go take my family to the beach, to Rockport. It's a near us on Sunday. I got to go do something fun and I get to remember it. It's my favorite place in the world. I get to do it sober, which
Mm,
means there were a lot of years I did. And yes, there's years in the, last year there was too. But I get to remember I have lost 2 people to addiction that I know kind of in these rooms. And that is an important sobering fact to me, Wendell, because we always say, we look at the book, institution, jail,
jail's institution or death.
or death. So, I get to be here today. I can't talk about tomorrow. I can talk about today.
Right.
And the smile that you see on my face, and I'm only saying this because you know me, is to anyone watching this wasn't here a year ago. What I've learned in this, what I've learned, life is really short. Life is too short. Take the joy,
Absolutely.
run with it. And if there is something that would take away, not your joy, because being an alcoholic, I can make a big thing out of everything. But if something would take my joy, or that I would choose to let it go. Just
Yes.
let it go.
It's not worth it by
Because
no means.
it's not worth it.
Yeah.
People, places, and things, I don't have control over those. I just don't. And that is the biggest lesson, other than the fact that I don't have to drink no matter what, is I don't have to control anyone. I don't get to control anyone. I
Right.
get to control me.
That's the only thing I can change in life is my attitude and outlook upon life. It's the only thing I have power over changing is my attitude and outlook. You also said something about getting to once again, and I have a friend, my first sponsor told me that if I got what I was supposed to get, doing the things that I was doing, It would be jails, institution, and death. And I've heard you quote the book several times and kind of
Great.
just slid it through there, but I appreciate you. The book that we're talking about is the first 164 pages. I love to point this out because they have not changed since 1935 when they was written. They was published in 39. And as of 2001, over 2 million people have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Alcoholism is a chronic disease, and AA is not the only way to stay sober, but it is one of the ones that have documented the most recoveries. That's the way I needed to put that. So
Correct. And because it is
yeah,
cunning,
absolutely.
baffling, and powerful.
Yes.
And I get powerless because nobody that I know of could will alcoholism away. I couldn't.
I couldn't either.
Um, all I can speak to is myself. And now that I look at this, I have never yet had a DUI. I have never yet driven drunk. I have never yet done all these things. And I always say yet. I haven't yet, but
Yet,
I don't plan to. But I know that if I take away steps in my program that are important to my recovery, I don't know what it would look like. So what I am just going to say is my program for now looks like all five of those things you said. And might have learned those from a good person, from a two good people. But all I need to do is do those steps. And I also get some outside help, and that's okay. Um, and I get to stay sober another day. I get to see my son who has autism go to an adult program next week.
awesome.
I get to trust that my daughters went to a different state and that they were okay. And I get to travel because of what my volunteer gig is in life. And I get to feel okay. And I get to do it sober. And that's an
Absolutely.
amazing gift.
That's amazing. Can you share a specific moment or experience that tested your self love and your
Abs-
sobriety?
Absolutely. So when my father was we were at my, yeah, it's recent too. Yes, absolutely. So at my parents' house about a month ago, my mom came home on hospice, and we found out that my siblings and I found out at the same time that I was given this sole healthcare proxy and power of attorney. And wow, well, oldest sibling, I guess that's normal or something. Um, but my sister, who is not in our program but probably would qualify for it, left a bottle of wine on my windshield with a note that says, "You're a drunk. You shouldn't have this power." And yeah, I lost my mind for about 45 seconds. Okay, maybe a minute and a half. It was a while. And what did I do with it? I smashed it on the ground because somebody else's pain, I'm going to feel bad for. I feel bad. Somebody feels bad. However, that was a invitation, in my mind at least, to pick something up. And I don't say pause, pray, proceed. I learned this. Pause, pray, ponder, pause, pray,
Yes.
ponder,
Yes.
maybe many times, and then proceed. And it wasn't violent. I was mad, but I needed to get myself into a spiritual place of saying, I'm not doing this. Not a game I'm playing.
Yep.
And I threw it out the
Some are
so
sicker
that
than others.
Friday.
Hmm.
And but it didn't. It challenged it. And guess who won? Laurel won, Sobriety won, relapse zero.
Absolutely. That's
And
awesome.
that was recent, and it's going to happen again with my mom. And you know what? And I'm okay with that. Not what's going to happen because I know what to do. I know the steps to take. Because if I don't work this program of Alcoholics Anonymous, I'll go right back. My 444 days,
Won't mean a thing.
it'll it won't. And everybody says, relapse is yet to be a part of my story.
And
I
it's
don't
not
want it to
required.
be.
It is not a requirement. I
Thank
relapsed
you.
after 15 years and 359 days because I had arrived. I become smart. I went through three college degrees while in
Perfect.
recovery,
Yep. And my
associate
three
bachelor's and
colleges,
master's. And, I had arrived. I was traveling overseas and decided to drink. And it took me from January 2016 till February 14th, 2023 to get in here and get any kind of stability, stable recovery under my belt. So,
so Wendell, can I just add something which I think is important because you
sure.
said that and I tried to allude to it as well. You said it better than me. It doesn't matter. I have two bachelor's degrees and I have a master's plus 30. Doesn't matter. It matters, I guess, for my career. Does it matter for the fact that I was drinking? Absolutely not.
No,
Because because I was able to put that in my brain and just isolate it, right? And not have it. And I'm a social, I work with, I have a job that I am working with vulnerable populations, okay? And if I can do that, it doesn't matter how many degrees I have. I could have 17, by the way. Maybe, I wouldn't, that would be expensive. However, it doesn't matter. I go to this program I'm going to tonight. I co-present with a doctor, as well as somebody who happens to be a physician and an attorney. And you know what? We are all still friends at Bill W's. And that's
absolutely.
okay.
Something just flashed in my mind. It says people with allergies to fish or peanut butter have degrees and don't think like we think. You think I'm smart and I should be smart enough not to drink. Well, they're not smart enough to. They have a physical disease, and I don't know where my brain went, but it just was ironically to think that I hear in the rooms all the time that well you should be strong enough, you should be smart enough, oh you should love them, their love for you or your love for them should stop you, and none of those things stopped me when once I drink alcohol. It is no telling alcohol is the commander in chief at the time. It tells me when I'm going to stop, when I'm going to wake up, when I'm going to go to work, and all of those things. So I've recovered, and when you hear me say I've recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, that's what it is. All of the thoughts and patterns that goes along with alcoholism. So that is, I appreciate it. I'm glad you made it through that particular trial. And as you know, pick up the phone. Like a lot of people say, play the tape. No, I don't want to play the tape. I don't want to pick up the phone. That's why you reference the 10,000 pound phone. People think that if you pick up the phone and call an alcoholic when you're wanting to drink, they're going to say, well,
Half
no,
a
don't
pound,
drink.
half a
It's,
pound,
it's not
half a
10,000.
pound, everyone,
It's probably a couple of ounces, I think they said.
or
Either
that.
way,
You have to be, I had to be willing to realize that my way didn't work. It just didn't.
yeah,
And that's
surrender.
okay.
Surrender.
I had to surrender, and I talked about it on a meeting today, and I'll talk about it tonight at McLean. If I don't surrender, and maybe I need a reminder for that sometimes, that's okay. But I need to do that because once you work the steps, does not mean for me, the steps are done. I can go back and I can keep working them because sometimes I need a reminder. Maybe I need
Yes.
to do another fourth step. Maybe I
Mm,
do. It's okay. It doesn't make me a bad person in recovery. What it means is I get to do something in sobriety with my brain totally working. Again, might hurt. But I get to do it. And for me, it just means that I will be going to these meetings I will be going to AA meetings and being a part of this program and being a sponsor, sharing with other people, doing what I'm asked to do, um, for the rest of my life. And I know
One
that
one day at a time.
one day at a time, but I will, and I'm not, I don't think there's a time or a year mark or anything which says, you're cured, Laurel. You're cured. Yeah, no, I don't think that. So I'll take
Trust
it a
me.
day at a time. I'll take my
Yes.
sobriety a day at a time. I will also say that working all of this, yeah, it's work.
Yes.
However, it's so worth it because I get to have a beautiful life.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to wrap this up with one more question, which is what advice would you give to others who are struggling with maintaining their sobriety while also practicing self love?
Do things that might be hard, whether that's going to a meeting. Do things which make you uncomfortable, even though may not feel right. Think about who you get to be. Think about the promises which are out there for you. Think about what your higher power, whomever that is, God, Buddha, like, anybody else.
Yes.
Think about what you would want out of your life for yourself and show up to a meeting, whether it's online, whether it's in person, show up to maybe your doctor, your counselor, do all these things together, maybe, and find a good sponsor. And remember that this book that I'm just going to show again has a lot of good answers in the first
Absolutely.
164, as well as in some of the stories in the back. And know that you're never alone. In this program, you never need to be alone again. And in this program, we will love you until you love yourself.
Wow.
And I think I can say that for, yeah, I am going to say that for this program, as opposed to myself, as opposed to my I statements, and know that it worked for, yeah, it worked for me. And I believe it can work for anybody. And I believe that there are people who, if you love, when I figured out how to love myself, wow, it made it easier for me to love everyone else and to be there for everyone else too,
Yes.
when as I could. So
Yeah.
you can do it.
As an adult at 59, well, I'm a little older than 59 now, but it took me till the age of 59 to really begin to love myself and to identify myself. I have a friend that used to say, "Man, Owens, you're an excellent guy, man. Oh, man, you're a good guy and all of this." And I say, "Man, I want to meet that individual that you say I am." And I finally had the chance to meet that guy through prayer, meditation, journaling, working the 12 steps, the shadow work, the constant coming into meetings and sharing my truth. Not some souped up story, not something that I think I want you to hear. The actual things that happened to me one time, one day at a time. And it says, our story on the 10th step says, our story has the power to avert misery and or death in another individual. That's a powerful statement. And that's in the 10th step. So you talked about the ninth step promises. And I can quote them to you, the whole ninth step. I love it because it says, we'll be amazed before we're halfway through. We'll know a new freedom and a new happiness. Where else do a person with my background that done the things that I've done, that have shamed myself, and I put more shame and grief on myself than anybody else ever have, I believe. If somebody would have treated me the way I treated myself, I'd have heard them a long time ago. So any last parting words or encouragement that you'd like to?
Sure. The last parting words I would have, gosh, is that anybody who might watch this, who is remembering, not only can they thinking about if they can stop drinking or drugging, and I really can't, sorry, I can't really talk about the drugging, but can stop drinking, there are ways to love yourself. You're not a bad person, and that is the first thing I would say to anyone. You are an amazing person if you come to a meeting. You come to a meeting of AA and like whatever it is, you show up. Showing up is the most beautiful thing you can do. And that is self-love. That is loving yourself. That's not, in my mind, that is not in any way, shape, or form um, about you. That's about you loving you and letting other people smother you with love. Letting other people say, I said this before, we're going to love you until you love yourself.
What do you say to the person that don't believe that?
I'm going to say try it. If you haven't tried it,
I think I would say try it. If you don't believe it'll happen to you, believe it happened in my life. And
correct.
I'm living proof of it. So I just figured I'd sneak that one in there.
All good.
Thank you so much for spending time with us. I appreciate you. This has been enlightening and also a pleasure. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule, and bless your family and bless your productions and your volunteering and all of the things that you do. Keep them sponsees in line. Like we just whoop them all into shape. I mean, no, actually, we really don't whoop them into shape.
I'm just gonna tell them what I think and I'm gonna see if they might agree or not. And I'm just gonna listen and I'm gonna try to talk to them and I'm gonna try to make them agree with what I said and make them think it was their thought, which is what my sponsor did to me. Thank you so much for asking
Awesome.
me to be part of your podcast.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
We will. Take care.
You also.